Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm genuinely excited about this What's Up, Doc, but just actually getting to see you. I mean, I saw you yesterday, but hey, I haven't even talked to you today, really, because you've been in a training session all morning.
I have. We were. I think you know this for sure. That every week we participate in a program called KC 360 to reduce homicides in Kansas City, and there was a criminal justice forum today, and I was hustling because I value What's Up Doc so much. So
Well, I thank you for rushing back to us. Dr. Price, before we jump in, we are already in May, and I can't believe it.
I know we
And
made it.
we made it to May. And I know that you sent out a newsletter last week, and we've gotten a lot of responses about that newsletter. But I was wondering if you have anything encouraging you'd like to say to your listeners, just to give them an encouragement to like knock out the second half of the year.
If there's one thing I'd use to describe 2025 so far for most of the people that like engage with us is that there's been lots of change. Change coming at ridiculously rapid rates. And I've always just prided myself on being able to deal with ambiguity. But dealing with ambiguity is something that happens on the inside. It is my ability to withstand change that's happening on the outside and handle that well. But what I'm learning is that right now we also probably need the skill to be able to be agile. In addition to being able to deal with rapid change on the inside, what does it look like to be able to make the next right decision in a measured gravitas way so that the people who are around me are not feeling like this, but actually feel settled in their bodies and regulated and able to make the next right decision. And so I guess the encouraging word that I will share with folks is one, we know how to handle change. We know how to handle change. Change is the one thing that is consistent. So there's not anybody in my life that I either work with or know personally who has not had change happen to them. And when we look over the course of our lives and the changes that we've been able to withstand, it is a good indicator and it's evidence that we have the skill, talent, and ability to handle rapid change going forward. Yes, this might be unprecedented, but that does not mean we don't have the capacity inside to deal with ambiguity and outside to be able to be more agile. And quite frankly, my hope is that more and more people will reach out to us to get our help and support in that area, because I do fundamentally believe that people know what to do. It's just my job to help remind them to do what they know. So excited today to see if any other questions have anything at all to do to do with this topic. But yeah, let's get to it.
All right. And just a reminder, if you have any questions that you want to ask Dr. Price while we're actually on the call, just leave a comment. We'll pull it up and we will share the answer with you. So Dr. Price, the first question is, Dr. Price, a key team member has experienced a death in the family. They're in a deep process of grief, but feel the pressure not to step away because the team is in the middle of crucial projects and deliverables. They're afraid to take time off, but they also don't want to compromise the team's success or lose credibility. I've encouraged them to take time off, but I'm secretly panicking that if they take too much time off for their bereavement, that we will fall behind as a team. How can we step up to help this individual with everything that's going on in their life?
Oh my! So grief is complicated. Grief does not show up for people in the same way. So I first want to just acknowledge that I don't have all the information to give the advice that I want to give right now. I share in the book Dangerous Indifference and also in The Power of 7-Second Chances that one of my colleagues, when his father died, working for him was a way to get through his grief. That is true for some people. Taking time away does not help them in their grief cycle. I don't know if this person is like that or not. Then there are other people who really need to take time away. They want to grieve by themselves or with their families. So first, and this is one thing that I hate sometimes about me. Individualization is in my top 5 strengths finder. I rarely have the same advice for all people. I mean, I just people are different. So
Yeah.
I can't give you one answer, and without knowing who this person is, it's kind of hard a little bit for me to be able to effectively give the best answer. But let's just assume that this is a person who needs to step away, but just won't because they're afraid that the team is going to fail. I'm assuming you are their leader. If the reason someone is not making the best decision is because they are afraid, then you have to help them make the decision. They need to take the time to be away. And then when you have fears that are around what's going to happen with the team because they're gone, I would like to have a broader conversation about operating in a way that one person can cripple your team.
Mm.
Long term, what we need to be doing is building the skill, talent, and ability of everyone to be able to, for 5, 6, 7 weeks, handle one person being gone. Okay. But for now, what I want to just center is this idea that, yeah, there are real fears, and then there are fears that we sometimes make worse because we are imagining obstacles that don't exist or have not materialized yet. So if it were me, I would pull the remaining team members together and say, let's call her Alice. Alice is going to be out for a while for bereavement. Let's talk about what our it's called a negative brainstorming exercise. Those of you who've been on here before have heard me talk about it. What does it look like to talk about all the things that are going to possibly go wrong in Alice's absence? And then we're going to create a couple of columns. What's the probability of that those actions happening? And then what's the impact if they do? And then we're going to rate each of those high, medium, or low. So we've
Mm.
got two columns, probability and impact. In my experience, people always say high impact, high probability for everything. And then we look at this list and we go, what things are in our control and what things are outside of our control? The things that are within our control, let's talk about how we're going to mitigate the risk of those while Alice is out. Because let me tell you, we either are going to learn pleasantly or painfully that people need to grieve. And a person on a team who needs some time away can cause far more damage not taking care of themselves than if we allow them time to step away and be able to care for themselves. So in the short term, I say don't try to come up with the answer to this by yourself. This is something that when we pull the crowd together and we crowdsource, that there are probably some answers in the room. That maybe there are some things that Alice does have capacity to be able to do. I don't know this person's name. I'm just calling them Alice. In the meantime, but longer term, we have to come up with solutions whereby if one person has a challenge, that we are not crippled and unable to deliver on our, you know, on what we have to deliver every day.
Thank you for that, Dr. Price. But and it also leads me to another question because you and I talk about this all the time. And the example, I'm not an example, but the experience I'll use is like when Sire had passed away, the vet was like, Sire was my dog. The vet was like, oh, I remember when I first moved here and Sire was the first dog that I saw. And like now I'm over here because now he's feeling bad that my dog has passed. And now I'm taking on his emotions. So when you were talking about this person may need to just work, how do you not be the person that comes in and like force time off on them? Right.
Yeah.
You think like I'm over here, I'm thinking that the best thing for you is to take time off. And now I'm like taking on those emotions for you and not allowing you to do what you need to do. How would I, as a leader, be able to be better at that?
Yeah, I think it's building empathy muscles. So, sometimes people think that empathy is being nice or empathy is being compassionate. It's not really either of those things. It is understanding what another person thinks, feels, or believes. And to be able to understand, you have to ask questions. And the question is, what do you need right now that will be most helpful to you in your grief experience? And as a person is talking and they start talking about, well, I want to take some time off, but I'm afraid. What do you need? I'm going to ask my question again, right? Like, what do you need right now? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not asking you about what everybody else needs. I'm asking you, what do you need right now in order to be your best self right now? And if I'm listening well, I will hear you tell me, I need to work, I want to work, or I need to be home. Whatever you need right now is what I'm going to give you while you're in bereavement. And if you do this well, what you find is when people are better, they come back ready to work in better ways
Yeah.
than if we had either forced them to go home or if we had forced them to work. It takes more time to
Hmm.
ask questions to see who a person is, and sometimes people won't tell you the truth because they think you're going to judge it. So you have to make the space safe for people to be honest about what they need right now. And if you tell them that you're also worried about the team not being able to stay together and deliver, then they're going to tell you that they're afraid and that they can work. So you got to be as neutral as possible while you're going through this process.
Thank you, Dr. Price. I think that was a really good question, and great answers for however you are on the spectrum. So, our next question is, Dr. Price, I've recently been promoted. I enjoy my new role, but I'm realizing that I may be in over my head.
Mm,
The team isn't as strong or as developed as I was led to believe. They're overwhelmed, downing themselves, and quietly panicking about whether they made the wrong decision, and they feel stuck. They're often coming into my office to ask me questions time and time again, and they can't make a decision for themselves. I have an open door policy, but I'm really rethinking this because I can't seem to get my own work done because I'm too busy in the weeds of helping everybody else.
hmm. So it sounds like this person is a leader of a team. They got hired for their skill, talent, and ability. But now the team they lead, they're recognizing that that team has some gaps. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So this the person you might not like my answer to this, um, but your job is people development. So if you find out that your team has gaps, it's your job to help close those gaps. Doesn't matter if you were misled, not at this point, because you have the job now. So the job is to develop the people. In my experience, now this is not 100% true, but I would venture to say most of the time it's true. When people are coming to ask questions, they actually know the answer, especially if they've been working at a place for a long time. People are asking questions and trying to get your approval because there's some trust missing and they don't want to be responsible if things go poorly. That's usually my experience. And so what does it look like in an environment where this is true? A couple things have to be put in place. I am a fan of an open door policy in theory. In practice, your one-on-ones are where you have discussions about what's working, where we getting stuck, and what do we need to do differently. And those one-on-ones need to be weekly. If you have 10 to 12 people or less on your team, you need to have formal time every week at an hour to be able to talk through things that are getting in the way. Now, if it turns out that something is urgent and can't wait till the one-on-one, okay, fine, stop by. But if you have urgent issues every day, now we need to have a different discussion about what's going on there. And what I find is that as people get promoted into leadership, that especially functional leaders, where I have work that I have to do as well as lead people, where leaders sometimes fall down is that instead of delegating, instead of building capacity in the people who report to them, they now are answering questions. So, Jocelyn, you come to me, you ask me a question, I answer the question. Next time you have a question, you come to me, you ask me a question. And if I might just give a practical example, most of the time, Jocelyn, the questions you get are around budget. Do people have the money to pay for whatever service it is we're offering? Um, I have given you the authority that within a certain range, you can work with folks, or you can use books, or you can barter
Yeah.
services if it's something that I need to be able to make that decision yourself so that you don't have to bring those decisions to me. We also have a standing, it's supposed to be a 5-minute stand up. It never is that quickly. It's never that fast. Don't follow our lead on this. But every day we check in the morning to say, okay, what's your one word? How you feeling today? And then very quickly, what's your priorities today? And what's working? Where you getting stuck? What do you need done differently? Like, what do you need to do today? The stand up is supposed to be more around like task tracking and very quick. The one on one is designed to be kind of broader, to talk about what are those massive things that are getting in the way. And if by chance Jocelyn comes to me every day and has the same kind of question, now the objective is, Jocelyn, I want to build your capacity to be able to make decisions in this particular area. Let's talk about what that might look like. I'm going to work with you over the next 5 to 6 months of building your capacity to do that. Um, because, quite frankly, small decisions should not be made by the leader, they should be made by the team members. There's a book called Fierce Conversations. It's right here, written by a woman named Susan Scott. It looks like this: Achieving Success in Work and Life, One Conversation at a Time. And Susan shares an analogy with a tree, where there are like leaf decisions. If a leaf falls off a tree and somebody made a mistake, the tree is going to be just fine. Then there are branch decisions. A tree might look a little weird if a branch decision gets made and it's wrong, but the tree is still going to be fine. A trunk decision is something that the leader needs to be involved in, because if the trunk of a tree is damaged, you run the risk of like killing the whole tree. And then root decisions are those ones that nobody makes all by themselves. And so we really have to start thinking about what kinds of decisions are people making every day. Leaf decisions need to be placed at the person who's responsible for them. The leader should never be making leaf decisions, but that requires you as a leader to spend time looking at what kind of decisions people are making every day and making sure that they're put in the right categories. And if so, wonderful. If not, then now you know where you need to work. Okay. But I want you to embrace the idea that skill gaps are now your responsibility. They're now your responsibility. Those are your people, that they need to be able to close those skill gaps that are necessary for their jobs.
I love that, Dr. Price, which leads me to just this follow up. How do you build trust quickly on a team? So, whether this person was inside the organization and got hired into the position, or let's just say the team culture just wasn't good, that's just what was expected. You have to come to me, right? Because you had a leader who was a micromanager. And so that's just not how you lead. So, how do you build team trust quickly in order to start bridging these gaps?
Yeah, I don't do these WhatsApp docs to kind of tell you all the people that I know. But I mean, you don't get your doctorate in leadership because you don't like study other leaders and what they do. This is um, Franklin Covey, Speed of Trust. It is some of the best work that I've ever seen, but it's also very complicated work. It's like 13 different ways to be able to build trust quickly on teams. However, one thing that Patrick Lencioni has introduced me to, that is the Myers-Briggs personality assessment. Sometimes when trust is low, it is truly around communication style, decision-making framework, change management approaches, and how we like to fight. And too often we personalize some of these things when it really is just inherently how a person is um, designed to be. And so we need to create norms and have discussions around style and type and preference, and then decide how we're going to work together. And I know that we have understanding your leadership style for the leader, but we also have understanding your leadership style for the team. So folks can look at what's actually true for folks and then come up with a set of norms for how we're going to behave between each other based on those realities related to me as a person. One of the biggest pushbacks that I get about personality assessments is like, I understand who I am. I've done all the personality assessments. I don't need to do this with my team. The challenge is, the first step is understanding yourself well. The
Mm-hmm.
next step is understanding how you can adjust your style to be more effective with more people more often. And so if you are interested in building kind of major amounts of trust on your team, I do recommend things like the Myers-Briggs personality assessment, or coming to like the understanding your leadership style session to learn how to work together, learn yourself better, and then also learn how to work better with others.
I love it. I love it. And that session, we do have it open to the public. It is on August 25th. If you want to go to www.livelyparadox.com under our events section, It is called Unleash Your Leadership Style. And so it's on there. And so, Dr. Price, I have one more question for you today. Are you ready to answer this one?
I am ready to answer the one more question.
All right. Dr. Price, our organization is on a hiring freeze. Critical staff has retired and or are preparing to leave. The remaining employees are overwhelmed, burnt out, and silently disengaging. Work still has to get done, but there's no relief coming. How do I continue to show up for my team and not take on everybody's workload so that my family feels it on the back end? I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do or where to go from here because our senior leadership has all left.
So does this person have a team or not?
This person does have a team. It sounds like this person does have a team, but the people over them are no longer with the team, but the people under them is with their team. So it sounds like this individual, because they have a hiring freeze, is just taking on all the work of everyone that's left over them, and
Okay.
then trying not to consume the work of the team that's under them.
Yeah, so this is another one that I think is let me just say I understand, because me too. When we have slightly controlling personalities, our tendency is to think that the only options are for me to take the work of the people above me or take the work of the people below me. There is a different option, and
Mhm.
that is to pull together the people who are remaining. Do not do this by yourself. The United States is like overly individualistic in the way that we think about things. We are part of community. Pull your community together and say, hey, here's the problem. By the time we walk out of here, my goal is that we have a plan for how the rest of us are going to work together and get work done. We even might need to say, what are the highest priority projects? What are the low priority projects? And listen, when you do that grid, I can't remember what the name of it is, where it's like urgent versus important.
Mhm.
Everything can't be urgent and also important because you got 4 quadrants. But force yourself to put things in urgent versus important quadrants and work on the things that are urgent and important, or not urgent and important. And then when you look at those projects, the things that are not urgent and not important, not gonna get worked on. The things that are urgent but not important, not gonna get worked on. And that's gonna require some discipline. But if you think about yourself juggling balls and you've got 20 of them, the balls are just gonna fall randomly. But if you have 20 balls and you're like, okay, what are the 3 that are most important for me to pick up right now and juggle those? That's all that you can do. That is all that you can do. And I know that sometimes when you care a lot about a place and you see that decisions are made that have made it such that it's not the most efficient or not the most effective structurally, that you go, wait a minute, let me look at this structure. The structure is a mess, but I don't control that the senior leaders have been fired. And you're going to be unhappy if you decide to stay there and work effectively in that job. So if you decide to stay there, because I also want to point out that there is another option, and that's to leave in peace.
Mhm.
That is an option for you. But if your desire is to stay, pull together your group, put things in the quadrant of urgent versus important, decide how you're going to get these important matters, both urgent and not urgent, addressed with the people who remain, divvy up the work, and then start executing on that plan. That's what you can do to stay engaged and do what you can do. Like my job is never to be the superwoman with the cape. Like I understand why we take that on, because we feel like if we sacrifice ourselves, that somehow we can save a sinking system. How has that been working for you? How has that been working for you? What's more realistic for you, your family, and everyone else involved is to carve out what you can control and focus relentlessly on that. There are always 100 things that can be done, but you cannot do 100 things flawlessly. I have one client group who I know for sure when I ask them about prioritization, they're like, it's all important. When it's all important, nothing is important.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Price, and thank you so much for using your superpower. I know you said your job is not to be superwoman, but you do have a superpower, and I love your superpower that you get to use with us on What's Up Doc, and also in your keynotes when you're able to ask Q&A or do the Q&A session. We will have What's Up Doc next month, and we look forward to seeing any more questions. If you want to send it to me in an email, you can email me at jocelyn@livelyparadox.com or info@livelyparadox.com. Either one will get your questions to me, and we will see you next month.
Yeah, the other thing is always remember that you can ask questions live too. So if you don't want to send them in, you can send your questions in here, and if you don't want it posted on the screen, you can always just tell me that you want it to be private, and I won't post it, but we'll just get to it. So I love doing these. Whatever questions you might have about leadership, that's what I know about. Please always feel free to send those. All right. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you. Have a good rest of your week.